Welcome back. Threats at school, a daily fear many parents and students face. This week, that fear hit many across Georgia when hoax threats were called in at high schools, and that included several in our area, southeast Georgia. 12 Georgia school districts were hit with threats that turned out to be hoaxes. That's according to state law enforcement officers. The next day, here in Duval County, students at Lakeshore Middle School went into lockdown after a bus driver reported seeing a suspicious person, possibly armed with a weapon. We met parents outside the school who rushed to campus. Sadly, these kind of scenarios are too common, and they're happening more often, it feels like. So joining us now is Dr. Tracy Alloway. Dr. Alloway, first off, thank you so much for being here to talk to us about this important issue.
Thank you for having me.
And this is an issue that many families think about on a daily basis. I admit I'm one of them. I have a child in school. So what kind of conversations should parents have with their children about threats at school?
Such an important question, and it's really quite sad that we do have to consider this, but there's an acronym that we can keep in mind. It's the ILA, and the I stands for identify. So the first thing that the parent can address with the child is to encourage the child to identify where that stress is being held for them. If the child is starting to feel stressed, they may start exhibiting signs of stomach aches, headaches, shoulder aches, and they may start disengaging and want not to go to school. So as a parent, it's important to ask the child, identify where are you holding some of the stress. The L stands for the label. It's important for the child to feel comfortable that they can express and label that emotion. Are they feeling scared? Are they feeling angry? Are they feeling frustrated? It's important for the child to feel that they have a word that they can use to help communicate how they're feeling. And the A is to act. In situations like this, we often feel out of control. There's so many factors that are not within our immediate level of control. And for the child, the parent can encourage them to at least identify one thing. What is one action that they can do to put that sense of control, that sense of agency back into their hands?
Very, very important. Let's also talk about the impact this has on parents. Talk about ways that parents can alleviate their own anxiety and fears as they drop their children off for school, or that they get on the bus and head to school. How can they alleviate some of their anxiety as parents?
Yeah, such a good question. Oftentimes, anxiety is rooted in something that's happening in the future. And one way to help manage some of that is to have a plan in place. So for the parent, they may want to know, maybe even the route the bus is taking, what happens once they get in school, what plans does the school have as a contingency, what can they offer to their child to do, who can they call, do they have access to a phone? So having these types of information in place can help minimize some of the stress and anxiety from the parent's perspective as well.
And also talk about resources that are available right now to local families. This is important.
It is important, and the key here is to keep in mind that it's important to discuss these things rather than to try to push this down. As a licensed psychologist, sometimes I have clients that try to minimize or kind of push it to the side. Oh, it's not a big deal, or it's not going to happen to me. Equally, you can have individuals that may catastrophize and may view this as an all or nothing situation. So it's important to find a balance, and sometimes talking to a licensed therapist, a licensed counselor can be helpful. Now, more than ever, there's so many resources available, even online therapy available, if the individual doesn't have access to an in-person session. So really, the important thing here is to feel comfortable communicating that anxiety, that stress, and getting some skills and some tools from a licensed individual to help work through that.
And as always, it's important to know that even though these conversations are difficult, it is okay to have them and to reassure children that they can come to their parents and to talk about this if they do have fear.
Absolutely. Such an important point to keep in mind, to keep that safe space, to keep that conversation open between the parent and the child.
All right, doctor, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.